What you see with a good training program is that the people who perform well in the training program are the ones who end up performing well
a correlation
in real
there,
life.
yeah.
There's a direct correlation. And so
That's
obviously
interesting.
the way that benefits a company, there's 1,000 different ways that can benefit. It can be helpful for recruitment, helpful for management style, helpful for placing an agent on the right team within the company.
James Glass, fantastic to get you back on the Rebel Agent podcast.
Thanks. Good to be here.
It's great to have you because you've got this amazing reputation as a trainer, Dubai real estate trainer, and you're probably the best known in the market, I would say. So very much appreciate you coming back on. I'll put a link to the first podcast that we did so people can find out a little bit about your background. But could you just give a brief introduction?
In short, I've been in Dubai, coming up on 10 years, almost a decade now. Originally came here with Emirates as crew, which you'll hear, I think, in the first podcast, if I remember correctly. Ended up at Property Finder as a trainer. Ended up then at House & House as their in-house trainer. Then ended up at X Capital as their director of learning and development. And now for about the last year and a half, 18 months or so, I've been kind of on my own, doing my own thing. Started a consultancy and kind of operating as a freelance trainer, built a few different products and offering training services to Dubai's real estate brokerages.
Wow. Very good. And we'll get into some of those products. But I'd like to start off with one that isn't out yet. You've shown me a quick preview, and I think it's going to be, I don't like to use the word game changer, but I think it's going to be so important, and I think you'll do really well with it. And that's an online training program. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing like it. I don't know that it'll be game changer either. I don't like speaking too much before I've actually produced something, but I do know that I like producing things that don't exist yet, right? And I like to be the first to do it. And so I kind of looked around in the market and I don't know of a online training program for Dubai real estate agents that is independent, right? That any brokerage in Dubai would be able to use, any agent would be able to go onto. I have built 2 online training programs with 2 of my last brokerages that I've worked for, but those are in-house programs, right? Designed only for that company, that brand. And so now I'm building an independent one, right? Where any brokerage would be able to kind of bring on that training program in-house, integrate it through their CRM or whatever platform they use, and then have that available for their existing team. Or what I think will be a big use case is using it as part of their recruitment process, their onboarding process for new brokers, to be able to give them, 30, 40, 50 hours of training online without needing to bring in a full-time in-person trainer to offer that knowledge and expertise. So that's what I'm working on. I'm about 3 months in. I've used most of the summer building that, and I'm not done yet. I'm probably just getting up to about halfway done. So I'm hoping to have a live product by end of the year, hopefully December or so.
Fantastic. I mean, if I look at other products that you've done, you're very thorough. So I'm sure it'll be very good. And 40 to 50 hours, that's comprehensive, isn't it?
It's super comprehensive. Obviously, it's going to be fully customizable and editable. So it's not like if you go on as an agent, you have to go through the whole thing. If I'm an experienced agent, I might go on and find 3 or 4 topics that I think might be useful for me. Whereas if I'm new to Dubai, like a lot of these companies that will bring over someone who's literally fresh to Dubai, fresh to real estate, fresh to sales, the 20-year-old from the UK, well, that's fine. That's a good hire, but they need a lot, right? And so being able to give them that, just like you said, very, very comprehensive, everything from, the UAE, Dubai, the history of the real estate scene here in Dubai, the different government bodies that oversee it, different laws, processes, the actual map of Dubai, different areas, how they've evolved over time, and then getting into the actual nitty gritty of real estate, right? Different types of transactions, how they happen, where you get commissions from, different platforms that you would need for contracts, things like that, off-plan versus secondary versus leasing. So it really is very comprehensive. And then we'll go through different platforms and tools that they can use in the market, like other platforms. So the idea is really to be able to give all of this knowledge to an agent, whether that's a brokerage as a company or an individual person who wants to learn about Dubai real estate, and to do that at a very affordable cost through an online program.
Are you surprised nobody's done it before?
I'm not surprised because of how much work it is to do it. I would not have done this now, what I'm building. I would not have built it if I hadn't done it on a smaller scale for two brokerages before.
Yeah, sure.
Because you don't know
got that knowledge, haven't you?
Yeah, you don't know how much work it's going to be. And so I knew starting this, I knew this would be at least a 6-month project. I've been wanting to do it for about a year. And I've just been putting it off. Oh my goodness, like it's so much investment, it's so much time, it's so much effort and planning. And so I'm not surprised no one else has done it, because essentially you're taking a step back from, like, if you're an agent and you have the expertise to do this, you really have to take a step back from actually closing deals and being an agent to be able to build a program, and agents don't want to do that. And so I'm not surprised no one has done it. It takes a very unique, I guess, person with the right knowledge and also desire and ability. So
two of the things that really excite me about it is for the smaller brokerages, as you said, it's expensive, isn't it, to get a trainer in? And you've worked at various brokerages as a full-time trainer, and to pay you and other trainers, it is expensive. But there are these smaller brokerages who will benefit so much from it, I think. Plus the fact you are going to offer it direct to the public as well at a later stage. Obviously, it won't be as cost effective for them. But I was thinking, if you're a foreign agent, you're coming over here, it's a great way to learn about Dubai real estate first.
Great. Yeah, there's a few use cases. I mean, I think really for any brokerage that has probably less than 60 or 70 agents, usually just financially, which is a lot. I mean, that's not a small brokerage, right? But really any agent under 60 or 70 agents.
No, I mean, there's a lot of brokerages that are below that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, a large majority, right? How many brokerages in Dubai have over 100 agents? I don't know, probably 20, 30, something like that, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a large category of brokerage that has a good amount of agents. And when you have 50, 60 agents, you're recruiting a lot as well, right? You're always trying to bring in new agents from here, from overseas, fresh to industry. But they're also usually around that size. It doesn't actually make sense for them financially to go hire a full-time trainer. That usually happens over 100 agents. And so you're at this really awkward place where you really need training. You need really good training. You're hiring a lot. You're growing your company, but it doesn't make sense to hire somebody, and it's hard to find them anyways. And so that's really kind of the niche I'm trying to fill. And of course, for any brokerage smaller than that, it definitely doesn't make sense to have a full-time trainer. So it really is for kind of any brokerage, I'd say under 100 agents is probably the niche that we're looking for.
Yeah, and if I was running one of these brokerages and I was doing recruitment with new agents, I would be tempted to encourage them to have a look at this first and possibly even pay for it, because if they show that commitment and they do the study on it, that really shows that they're going to be serious about it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of online training, right? Of course, as an in-person trainer, I always do my best to get some sort of a feedback and get, just learning knowledge, make sure that what you're actually teaching them sticks. But it's so much easier to do that with online training because you can measure that through a variety of different ways. And so the reason that we're choosing the LMS we're using, the learning management system, it's a software that hosts all this training content. The reason we're choosing the one we're choosing is because of their reporting functionality, so that as the owner of your business or the manager of your team, as people go through this program, you're able to see exactly how much of that knowledge they're retaining, how much of it they're able to use in a quiz format, in a conversation format, in a case study format, to be able to see kind of like how much is this actually benefiting my team. And then you can come back a few months later and see how have the people who have performed at a high level in the training program, how are they performing in person? And usually what you see with a good training program is that the people who perform well in the training program are the ones who end up performing well
a correlation
in real life.
Yeah.
There's a direct correlation. And so obviously
interesting.
The way that benefits a company, there's 1,000 different ways that can benefit. It can be helpful for recruitment, helpful for management style, helpful for placing an agent on the right team within the company. There's 100 different ways that can
It is
help.
a game changer.
It can be a game changer, David. We're hoping it will be a game changer.
Brilliant. Yeah, no. And also, I was thinking, if you've got one of these smaller brokerages, what I would be tempted to do is, as an owner, I would be tempted to watch it all and then sit with the staff, play the video or get them to watch it and then just interact with them. And I think you'll find that some of them will do that and then realize, well, in some cases that's going to work. Great, job done. They paid for your program and it's done its job. In other cases, they might think, well, why don't we get the real guy in himself? It doesn't have to be for a huge amount. It could be for a few hours a week for a period of time. But I think you'll get quite a lot of business off the back of that.
Yeah. And it's so much easier as a trainer if you go in knowing that they already have gone through a significant amount of your training content. They already understand how you think, what your process is. And so that in-person training will be a lot more beneficial. But yeah, I mean, I think what you described is exactly correct, right? There's so many of these company owners or team managers or sales directors who they run every morning, maybe stand up 10-minute meetings, or at least once a week, like a Monday morning meeting. And I've sat through a lot of these over the last 10 years.
I bet you have, yeah.
And most of the time, honestly, they're useless, right? if I'm being completely honest. And so if imagine if you have a team of 20, 30 people, right, on your team, and you know that every week we're going to go through one topic from James's online course, right? And so they go through, let's say, I don't know, one specific topic. Well, that way that already gives you your topic for that Monday morning meeting, because you know that your whole team of 30 people over the weekend, over the last 3, 4, 5 days, over the last 6 days have gradually made it through an hour and a half, 2 hours of training content on a specific topic, like following up with your clients, the right follow-up strategy for an off-plan client versus a secondary client. Then that gives you your Monday morning 20-minute meeting topic, right? You can extract what you want from that because you've also gone through it. Everyone else has already gone through it, and you kind of set the tone for how you want your team to apply those things. And you can just do that literally every week of the year. You got 52 topics at least in this program. And so it'll help managers. There's endless use cases.
What's not to love?
What's not to love, David? We'll see. I'll call you in 6 months. I'll let you know.
And having seen it, well, I can see it's great. So yeah, you'll do really well with that. When you were on the podcast last time, you were talking about your Dubai broker simulation. Talk to me a bit more about that. You've actually implemented that now. You've got it onto the market. How has that gone?
It's good, yeah. So the Dubai Broker simulation, it's this physical simulation set. It looks like basically just Monopoly on steroids, right? It's a board game style simulation tool, but it's designed for training, right? Tons of knowledge coming out through it. And it's been really good. I mean, I've run it within companies many times. I've got a few different big brokerages who actually have year-long subscriptions for this, and they use it in-house to train all their agents. And there's a few other times where a company has brought me in just like as a one-off, come and run our whole team through the simulation. You can get 8 people in one simulation, but you can run 2 or 3 at the same time if the space is big enough. And so we've actually had enough different use cases to just get a lot of feedback from different agents in the market. And overall, the feedback has been really, really good, whether that's in-house brokerages using it on a regular basis or whether that's one-off. Agents who go through it, they're skeptical for the first 20 minutes. They're like, oh, this is going to be a waste of time. Another joker with a board game, yeah, right? Yeah. And then by the end of the first hour, but definitely by the end of the 3.5 hour simulation, everyone is laughing, everyone is learning, everyone feels like an idiot because they just realize how much they don't know, because it really simulates the reality of Dubai real estate. And Dubai real estate, let's be honest, is complex, right? And so everyone leaves having realized, I don't know everything. I've learned something. I've gotten to know my teammates better. We're all getting along really well. And there's actually 1 or 2 things I learned through the simulation that I'm going to apply in real life. And so I've gotten only positive feedback from anybody that's gone through it. People who have been in the industry 15, 20 years, owners of companies, down to someone who's literally joined real estate yesterday and they're brand new. So it's been going really well. It's super fun.
And your wife's involved with that, isn't she?
She was involved at the beginning. She helped a lot with the design, the creation of prototype. Creating something like that's a lot of work. So she was very involved at the beginning. Now that the product is ready and we have, production quality simulations, she's kind of taken a step back. She handles a lot of the stuff on the back end, the finances, the admin, all that for us. So she's very, very helpful.
That's great to have had her involved, because obviously you spend a lot of time at home, and if you've got that, I'm sure you've got plenty of things in common, but obviously if you work together on that, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's actually been fun for our marriage to get her involved in this type of stuff. I think early on in your marriage, if you don't work together, you work separately. There's certain things that you don't learn about each other. You learn about each other in your relationship. You learn about each other, like your personalities and things. But when it comes to work, I think I didn't realize what her skill sets were. Yeah. And maybe that's just a little bit of narrow-sightedness from me. That's probably on me. And so over the last 1.5 years of working together, it's been fun to see certain tasks that I've tried to give her because I want to get them off of my plate, where she's just hated it. Like, okay, that's clearly not right for her. And other tasks that I would hate to do. And so I'm just like, here, you can do that. And then she loves that task and does it far better than I would be able to do it. So it's fun in that way to kind of figure out, hey, actually we complement each other in some ways. It just takes time to figure out how we can complement each other best. So in that way, it's been
great teamwork. Fun. Yeah, that sounds really good. Well, everything I've heard about it from other agents is very positive. Unfortunately, I haven't played it myself, haven't used it myself. but I will at some stage.
We can get you in. We'll get you in. We ran one session where it was open to any agent. Any agent could sign up and come. Yeah. Just because I got so many requests, kind of like this, like an individual agent who wants to come, but their brokerage maybe just isn't big enough or it's not the right fit for their brokerage. And so I ran one session where just anybody could sign up. But usually it's something where a team, an owner of a brokerage or a sales director would want their team going through it together, right? Because it kind of ticks multiple boxes that way. So that's where I think the best use of it is from what they're going to get out of it is really going to a brokerage, setting up and running the whole team through it together.
Yeah, great. And then I just want to talk a bit about training in general. When you were on last time, I didn't really look at your website properly, but I have done this time, and it's incredible how many different courses you run. What's the most popular course that you run?
Good question. I don't know that there's a most popular one. It really depends on the brokerage and what they want. Some brokerages bring me in for one specific session. I get a lot of requests for things like objection handling. I get a lot of requests for the request I get the most often is probably, we want help. Our team needs help closing. Whenever someone asks me that, I know they don't even know what closing means. So I just stay on the phone with them and I ask them to explain to me what they mean by that. And then I realize that they don't really know any of their sales process, let alone closing. You can't just get better at closing if you don't get better at the rest of your sales process. So anyways.
The close starts at the beginning.
Correct. Yeah. And that's usually what I go in and then train them on. If I hear that, I think, okay, well then, and like what they want is for me to come in and only focus at the very end of the sales deal. If that's what you're asking for, what you probably need is for someone to come in and focus on the very beginning of the sales process. And so I usually flip it on them and say, okay, if that's what you're asking for, let's start here. And over the course of 3, 4, 5 sessions over this month or whatever, let's go through every part of that sales process so that we understand how much we're doing wrong currently, which is why we're not then getting a good conversion ratio at the end. And as we do that, usually again in the first session, they're like, oh, why are we covering this? And then by the 3rd or 4th session, by the end of the month, they're like, oh, I get it. That's what was going wrong with my team. So that's the hard part for me is, of course, reframing that with every prospect that I'm talking to over and over, every company owner that calls me and says, we want training on this topic. I say, fine, explain to me why that topic, right? And usually it's not the right topic.
No, but I guess you get better and better at handling those calls with those owners.
I think so.
As you deal with more and more of them and being able to persuade them that, you need to do it slightly differently.
Yeah. So the first when you're talking about training in general, not just in real estate, just the learning and development world, really the first step of the learning cycle, kind of like you have a sales cycle, we have a training cycle, right? The first step is what we call doing a needs analysis. And so ideally a needs analysis, you go into a company and you're going to do a full needs analysis by talking to people, interviewing employees, interviewing managers, understanding what the company and the organization needs. Obviously, I'm not in a place to do that with every single brokerage that I do training for. They don't know how to do that within their own brokerage. So I've had to get really, really good at doing a needs analysis over an 8-minute phone call with the owner, right? So it's challenging to do that. But I think over the years of doing this, and of course, just knowing the industry, knowing how brokerages operate, by asking 6 or 7 specific questions, I'm kind of able to identify, okay, I think these are maybe the 2 or 3 things. Do you need more soft skills, right? There's specific questions you would ask to find out if their team just has bad soft skills and they're having a hard time building relationships with their prospects. Some teams have really good soft skills. They just are really bad at actually handling specific objections. Fine. And just understanding what those needs are through that phone call is probably the hardest part, but I think I'm getting there. Not 100% success, but we're getting there.
Makes sense. Off-plan's another thing you cover, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Now, is that more about selling off-plan or the actual specific areas of Dubai or a bit of both?
Yeah, no, I don't usually cover, area is fine. We can talk about the map of Dubai and positives and negatives.
But that's very much in general, is it?
Yeah, but I will never get into a specific developer or project and training.
Sense.
It's just why are you going to pay me as an experienced sales trainer focusing on Dubai real estate to come and give you a project demo? That's not, call the developer, go see the developer. They'll tell you about the project. We very much so focus with off-plan. I do a lot of soft skill stuff. Off-plan, look, anybody can come and learn every developer and every project and every area and learn the locations and learn the USPs. Fine. But if you're not able to actually receive an overseas lead, build a connection with them, build rapport with them on the first phone call, have a set follow-up strategy where you can actually identify their behavioral preferences to then be able to adapt your behavior to match with their needs to help sell to them. That's what's hard about off-plan. So that's what I focus on in my training is all soft skills. Soft skills on WhatsApp, soft skills on calls, soft skills face-to-face, soft skills on Zoom calls, soft skills at a developer's office, whatever it is.
Yeah. And then you've obviously got a bit of a technical background as well, having worked at Property Finder. So you do courses on the portals, on LinkedIn as well. Are they popular?
No, they're not popular. I usually have to force my...
Because it's so important, isn't it? I mean, agencies pay an absolute fortune. It doesn't matter whether you're in Dubai, US, UK, Europe, wherever. These portals now are getting more and more dominant and charging more and more. Now, if you're not getting every dirham's worth of business out of them, it's crazy.
Yeah, so I think there's two different things there. There's the portals and then there's social media, right? I don't think I've ever gotten a request from a lead for a training on the portals.
Really?
It just I don't think.
Because I've had training, a Property Finder training. It was hopeless, absolutely. It was obviously after you left. I mean,
thanks.
Well,
after I left, it fell apart. No, I haven't met the current Property Finder trainers. I don't know. I think that's probably why I don't get requests, though. Why would I pay someone to come and train me on how to use the portals when Property Finder and Bayut and Dubizzle have their own in-house trainers? So that's fine. I don't push that on companies. However, social media, I think, is a different topic, right? I don't think I've ever gotten a company owner call me and say, hey, I want social media training for my team.
That
which
kind of makes sense.
Me.
Well,
okay, tell me why it makes sense.
Yeah, because maybe they're more interested in the company brand itself. So maybe they could get you in to train the marketing guys or help with the marketing guys as a company. But we know in Dubai, agents move from agent to agent. Yeah. I think the average is going to be 12 months, maybe something like that. If I look on LinkedIn, it's rare to find somebody that's been not rare, but most agents haven't been there since, maybe 2024 is quite odd. If they've been there since 2024, 1 year, I think, they're well established,
Yeah, that's a good point.
So agents are moving around a lot. And if an agency gets you in to help the agents with their online, with their social media, maybe it's just the agent that benefits there. Maybe it puts them in a better position so they can move on.
That's a good point. What I usually do is if a company brings me in for 1 or 2 training sessions, fine. Of course, I don't touch social media. That's not what they want. But if I do have a longer agreement where they're bringing me in for 6, 7, 8, 9 sessions over the course of 2 or 3 months, then I'll usually kind of force them that one of those sessions will be focused on social media. And when that happens, everyone usually leaves saying, hey, that was really interesting. I've never gotten a session on that. That was really helpful. I'm going to implement it. To your point, you're probably right. It probably helps the individual agent more than it helps the company that's actually paying me to come and do the training. But yeah, it's one that I enjoy doing because I see agents implement that. So I have agents that I've trained on social media 3, 4, 5 years ago at other companies, and they now have bigger followings than I do, and they're super consistent with it. Would they attribute that to my training? Maybe not, but at some point they got it.
Or some of them.
And it's working, right?
It would be down to your training, probably most of them. Yeah.
And that's the one thing that you take with you when you leave a company. So I don't understand why agents don't do that. If you're just purely relying on that company's brand and marketing and digital marketing, ads and portal presence for all of your business, I mean, that will end one day. They will go out of business. You'll leave. You'll resign. Whatever, something will happen.
Yeah.
Your social media you take with you. So I don't understand why agents don't at least use a small percentage of their daily time doing that. It's not a full-time job.
I just think there's
right?
a few agents out there that have got a great network already. They don't touch social media.
Fine.
And they don't.
They're
need
a good
to.
exception.
Yeah. Yeah. And
your daddy was rich. You don't need social media. Yes, you tick the box.
Yeah, you're right. But for new agents in particular, social media is a really good way of getting into this market and build that up. If you can, build that up first and show that you can do that. You're a good person to invest with and use as an agent and then become an agent. Yeah. I think that's a good way of going about it. When you were on last time, you talked about working at Property Finder and doing the training. I got the wrong end of the stick because I thought you were training the staff at Property Finder, but you weren't. You were actually training the agencies on how to use Property Finder. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I was going all around. I think they still have that role, if I'm not mistaken. I think they still have a trainer or two who go all around Dubai to different brokerages and train their agents. So Property Finder's clients, who would be a real estate brokerage. So they'll go to all these different brokerages and train their agents on the very basics of Property Finder. How to create a good listing, how the algorithm works, the requirements for the photos, super agent, stuff like that. I think Bayou and Dubizzle have something similar as well.
Yeah, so when we were talking earlier, we were talking about another podcast that you did with Mario Volpi with Novi podcast, and it's really interesting when you look at your sort of competition, if you like, within the space and why there is a lack of it. Because if you're going to be a real estate trainer, who do they select? It's difficult, isn't it? Do you choose somebody that's been a really good trainer and try and teach them Dubai real estate, or do you take somebody that is a real estate agent and then turn them into a trainer? Could you just touch on that? Because I found it fascinating what you were talking about.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, look, it's that is the dilemma. That is the dilemma, is choosing either an agent and trying to turn them into a trainer, teaching them how to train, or taking an experienced trainer, which, by the way, you can get a degree in being a training, right? Learning psychology, learning and development of people, and then specializing in the sales realm, and then trying to teach them Dubai real estate. Well, both really is not ideal. Both have the big shortfalls there. What I found over the years is that taking somebody who's a really good trainer and teaching them Dubai real estate is possible, but it's slow. In other words, you can't take somebody who's been doing training for the last 15 years, bring them over to Dubai, and in 2 weeks, they're training your sales team. They can train on some things, like on soft skills, some generic sales skills that are transferable, but they can't really train your team on anything Dubai real estate related. And you don't learn Dubai, like you wouldn't take someone who's been in the industry for 9 months and make them a trainer. You're going to take somebody who's been in the industry for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years and make them a trainer. And so it takes a lot of time. Even if that's their full-time job is just learning, it takes time for that person to finally be able to build a full training program designed for agents. But then on the flip side, if you take a really good real estate agent, I mean, one, they probably won't want to become a trainer because they're a really good real estate agent. They're making really good money. So you have to take a not so good real estate agent in Dubai and turn them into a trainer. Well, why would you want the not so good real estate agent to train?
I suppose it's important then that people don't know that they're not such a good
Correct. Yeah. Well, you really want to look for some, and this is what I ended up doing in my last 2 companies. When I would ever hire a trainer, I look for somebody who is super smart. They get it. They're doing all the right things. And maybe they are even starting to have some success, maybe year 2, year 3, but it's not the right lifestyle for them because they have family, they have maybe kids at home,
Absolutely.
And they just
maybe
can't
an older person
commit.
as well.
Somebody who's older who just is tired of doing it, right? And so that's the person that you want. It's not that they were bad at the job; they were actually good. They were doing everything right, but they just had other priorities. Like I've hired trainers that are pregnant. I've hired trainers who have newborns at home. Whatever it is, difficult family situations. Perfect, right? You get it. You're a really good communicator. You already know Dubai real estate. I can just now focus. Like you can literally start training tomorrow. You won't be a very good trainer, but at least your knowledge is there.
Yeah.
And then over the course of months, I, as a train the trainer, I can start molding like how they train, the methodology, right? Give them tips and tricks on how to actually run a training room of agents, how to set things up. So that's my preference, is hire an agent, turn them into a trainer. Either way, it's hard, right? I'm a bit of a unique situation where I literally started my career as a real estate trainer.
Yeah.
Which is why for the first 12 months I was awful at both, at real estate and at training, right?
But you acknowledge that, and you...
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. You're not a genius. Even they knew when they hired me. They're like, all right, well, this guy's going to take a while, right? So it just takes time.
And this is Property Finder, yeah.
This is Property Finder, yeah. It just takes time. And this is the problem, is that people don't want time. You go to any brokerage in Dubai who needs a trainer, and they want a trainer tomorrow who's ready to go, has all the experience, who comes with a training program so that next week I can start hiring agents. They're delusional. That's not how it works. You got to invest in somebody for 6, 9, 12 months before they can even start building something that's going to help your brokerage.
And that comes back to your online training program, doesn't it? And how useful that's going to be for...
That's exactly the full circle.
Yeah.
And it's just the problem I'm trying to solve, because I know we've got, 3,000 registered real estate brokerages, something like that. I make up the number every time because no one knows. But with 30,000 agents and another probably 1,000 joining every month from overseas, right? And so there's never going to be enough trainers, especially not if we want to train all these people face to face. So we need to have something digital. And by the way, we're talking about online training. I don't believe online training will ever fully replace in-person training. You need in-person training. But maybe you can get 50 or 60% of what they need across and scratched off with a really good online training platform, something that's super engaging and interactive. And then take some of that knowledge and reinforce it with an in-person training program, right? Over weeks or months. And then you have on-the-job coaching and you have all these things that happen with that employee. But we need something to be able to take them from 0 to 50% online, ideally in my mind, before they even get to Dubai. And that's what I'm building.
Property Finder, which is where you started, one of the two big portals with Beirut here. These guys are just getting bigger and bigger and more important, aren't they? Property Finder's just had $525 million investment from an American, I'm going to say, private equity firm, which gives it a market capitalization of over 2 billion, I think.
It's just over 2 billion US.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And Beirut, I don't know. It's going to be something similar, I would have thought, maybe not quite as much, but they're getting more and more power, aren't they? Does it concern you where they're heading?
It concerns me. No, it doesn't concern me where they're heading. I think it's good for the market overall that they are seen as being such big players. I think it gives a lot of legitimacy to the whole prop tech realm of Dubai. I think it brings a lot of legitimacy even just by correlation to the Dubai real estate industry. So it's not a bad thing. I think it's good for Michael, good for that whole team over there that built PF from the ground up long before when it started as a magazine.
Is he still a shareholder?
He's there, yeah. He's founder and CEO, definitely a big shareholder.
Sorry. He's, yeah.
So, overall, I would say good for them. Does it worry me? I think the only thing that worries me is how much control they have over the brokerages. And you could argue that that's, on Property Finder. I don't think so. I think it's on the brokerages, right? Brokerages need to learn how to be less dependent on the portals. But the portals are really big players. They've done a really good job. I think mostly where it does concern me is that there's maybe a little bit less regulation here over those big players than there would be on those players if they were in other places like in North America or in Europe. And that lack of regulation, I think, probably plays out in some ways where they have more power than they maybe should have, or they're able to maybe price things in a way that they shouldn't be able to, or maybe even bundle things together and force a brokerage to have to take, one product in order to have another. Those are illegal practices in other countries, right? But because of the lack of regulation in some areas here, or not lack, just lower regulation. I think it's intentional. I think that does create some difficulties for brokerages, generally speaking, in Dubai to be able to keep up with how they kind of go about their business. But hey, this is the world we live in. We got to figure out how to adapt and overcome, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we covered a lot of points there. It's very interesting having you on. Was there any other areas you wanted to cover today? Do you want to talk about your business consulting? Because I know you do that as well, just briefly before I let you go.
Yeah, you mean like business consulting, like apart from training?
Yeah. So again, looking at your website, you offer that as a service, and I know you've worked with one or two brokerages, which makes, just listening to you talk and with all your knowledge, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, look, it's something that I came up with not because I wanted to do it, but because I had brokerages ask me about it. So I did it, and then I was like, all right, well, now I'm doing it. I should add it to my website. But basically, what I do with business consulting is very different, again, depending on the brokerage and their needs, but it goes beyond training. Most brokerages, they know me as a trainer. Fine. They bring me in for training. Fine. I'm happy with that. But some brokerages, when they're maybe in their first year of business, or maybe they're in a growth phase and they don't know how to scale. Well, I've been in a few companies while we're scaling, and so I'm familiar with a lot of different aspects, a lot of different verticals within a business that are necessary. And so there's a couple companies who brought me on for a short term, 3-month contract or whatever, to take a look at a bunch of different parts of their business to kind of give them some consulting, some advice on maybe how to scale that. So there was one company I did a 3-month contract with. I was in, I think, twice a week for, 3 or 4 hours. So like 1 week I focused just on the recruitment team, right? On building out a recruitment pipeline for them, meeting with the recruiters, building out a new interview format for them, figuring out how to incentivize them better for good recruits that stay in the company. Then another week we focused just on the marketing side of the business, on digital marketing, on, we hired a new videographer, looked at a content calendar for them. And so anyways, point being, over 3 months, we would look at all these different verticals of the business and try to figure out how to scale that business. A lot of owners, they'll grow it to the point, I think that business, they had already like 60 or 70 agents. They wanted to double that in 12 months. Well, that's hard to do. There's some things you need to shift in the way that you actually run your organization to be able to do that. So I've done that once with kind of a bigger, I guess, company like that. And once with a very small company, a startup. I think they had like 10 or 11 agents. They said, hey, we want to grow to like 30 or 40 in the next 18 months. What do we need to do? What do we need to set up to make that happen? And so again, just kind of helping them set up different verticals. So it's something that I do. Is it my main offering? No, but I think I'm maybe uniquely positioned. And I'm not the expert by any means in every single one of those verticals, but I think there's very few people in the market who have had just enough experience with each one of those verticals to understand the overall of a brokerage, to be able to come in and advise on each of those. And so I enjoy it. I think it's fun. It's fun being able to look at a business as a whole from an outsider perspective and give genuine advice to an owner who's level-headed, who is ready to invest but wants to be smart.
Yeah, I mean, it makes complete financial sense, I would have thought, for these brokerages who are ambitious or they are new to employ you for that and get you involved. Well, it's been great having you back on. I much prefer the hairdo this time from the...
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's you're going to have to wait a while for it to come back. So.
Yeah. No, that's great, James, and look forward to getting you back on in a few months and seeing how this new program works.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.